Bitcoin is the greatest distraction, the greatest disruption that is coming to financial services.
38 bought $500,000 of XRP.
December 17th, we've got our product event, which you can tune in on the live stream to see everything we've been building in the second half of this year.
I think by the time we see the next real crisis, though, they know now in this new crisis to come, which they helped create.
Hey there, and welcome back. Hope you're having an awesome day no matter where you're tuning in from around the world. Let's dive straight into what's happening with XRP today. And trust me, things are getting interesting. We're looking at the daily chart here, and XRP is sitting pretty at $2.21. Now, here's the exciting part. XRP actually moved into the green earlier today, and I'm already seeing comments everywhere saying, "We're back," and "This is it." But hold on just a second. While I love the enthusiasm, I think we need to pump the brakes a little before we call this the bottom. Here's what I'm watching for. If XRP starts climbing above $2.30, then $2.40, and eventually pushes past $2.50, that's when I'll be ready to say we're truly back in business. But right now, we're finally seeing some upward momentum, and that's definitely something to get excited about. Check this out. We're up 2.5% today. Meanwhile, Bitcoin is barely moving with less than 1% gains, still hanging around that $92,000 level. And get this. There are still people out there convinced Bitcoin's going to crash below $70,000 by this weekend. I'm not buying it. My take? Bitcoin's gearing up for its final push higher, and when that happens, it's going to drag the entire market up with it. And you know what that means? Alt season is coming, and we want to be ready for it.
Bitcoin is the greatest distraction from the greatest disruption that is coming to financial services. I think AI is probably the other big disruption there, but and there's so much noise around a lot of things like FTX and others. But if you bring the technology down to its core value, it does three things. One is it allows a payment mechanism. Number two, it allows smart contracts to be programmed into the token. And three, because it's a general ledger, it has a source of truth. So whoever has that token, all rights in that token are granted to that person. So if I sell it to Frank, I don't have to go through a third party to do it. Frank gets it, and Frank gets all the rights. So my favorite example is Rihanna, who came out with, right before the Super Bowl, and I know she's just testing the market in this, 300 NFTs, each one worth 0.00033% royalties on one of her biggest songs. Well, why can she do that? She can do it because when Spotify plays a Rihanna song, it can capture, the smart contract executes and says, I owe royalties here. And so nobody has to be involved in it. And it can take the fractional payment and go to, because Frank's a big Rihanna fan, so it goes to his account, and he owns a couple of those. and he's paid, right? So now think about any way in which you have revenue streams or royalty streams that you can now start to fractionalize that or democratize that. And think about how that is an uncorrelated asset to all the traditional assets. So other examples is, I think that athletes are they'll sign a big contract. They'll say to their fans, I'm going to sell off, tokens worth 10% of my future revenue stream. I'm going to, 100,000 tokens, and boom, the fans are going to probably pay a premium for it. So it will be a way, and if you think about it, it's just securitization done on steroids. And it's merely that this technology is enabling it, and it's also enabling other very interesting companies that will disrupt some of the traditional business models that we have today.
Now, let me show you something really interesting. The Fear and Greed Index. We're sitting at just 15 today, down from 17 yesterday. Think about that for a second. Even though the market's starting to bounce back, people are still absolutely terrified. And honestly, I just don't get this mentality. Every single time we see red candles, what happens? People panic and rush to hit that sell button like the world's ending. But here's the thing. Red days are when you either sit tight and do absolutely nothing, or better yet, you use it as a buying opportunity. It's like people have it completely backwards. When everything's on sale, that's when you should be getting excited, not running for the hills. Now here's something we absolutely need to talk about. Franklin Templeton's XRP ETF. It hasn't launched yet, but just the fact that it's coming is huge news that deserves our attention. Here's why this is so important. Franklin Templeton recently made a statement that caught everyone's attention. They said that Layer 1 blockchains outside of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana have massive potential. And guess what? They were pointing directly at XRP when they said this. And now? Well, their actions are backing up their words. By deciding to launch an XRP ETF, they're basically validating everything they said about XRP's potential. It's like they're putting their money where their mouth is, and that speaks volumes about what they really think about XRP's future. She saw what was coming way before most people even understood what was happening in crypto. Here's the thing that really gets me. She was out there telling everyone that Bitcoin is actually the biggest distraction from what's really about to shake up the entire financial world. Think about that for a moment. While everyone else was obsessing over Bitcoin, she was looking at the bigger picture. So let's take a listen to what she had to say, because this is going to blow your mind. Jenny Johnson understood XRP's true purpose way before it became obvious to everyone else. She gets that once you look beyond Bitcoin, it's all about utility. And here's the brutal truth. Bitcoin has zero utility. That's exactly why I think we're seeing institutions start to look past Bitcoin now. They're realizing what she knew all along. Now, let's talk numbers, because this is where things get really exciting. On day 3, the Canary XRPC fund came pretty close to their 5 million XRP estimate, actually acquiring 4.4 million XRP to back the fund. We're now looking at over 124.4 million XRP under management. That's massive. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Let me break down a potential scenario for you. Imagine just one fund pulling in 5 million XRP daily. Now multiply that by 12 different funds. That's 70 million XRP disappearing from circulation every single day. Scale that out to a week. That's 5 trading days. And you're looking at 350 million XRP getting locked away weekly just for these ETFs. That's a huge chunk of supply coming off the market. And speaking of ETFs, the Franklin Templeton ETF was supposed to launch on the 24th, but it didn't go live today as expected. Now, if you're just getting started in crypto, or even if you've been around for a while but still find yourself getting stressed out when you see those red candles, I want you to pay close attention to this next part. There's a guy named Dave who's got the perfect approach for handling those tough market days, and honestly, we could all learn something from his strategy. So let's hear what he has to say about this.
Now, am I eligible for this? Because here comes the announcement. Last night, Monday, November 17th, if you want to look at what I did, here it is. I hope I'm not giving away nothing. I probably am, so I probably shouldn't show it. 638 bought $500,000 of XRP. 637 bought 400,000 of ETH. 637 bought 750,000 of BTC. 636 bought 500 more or a reverse of XRP. So in total, last night, $1 million of XRP, 400 ETH, 750 of BTC. Blood in the streets. Dave's like a piranha. Dave's like a great white. He's just shark on fins. Oh, you know what? Let's do it. And we I know we can't clip it. We can't play music. So it's too bad. This will. See, I want to play fins, but I can't play fins if they clip this, because then the music companies. Anyways, fins to the left, fins to the right, BTC everywhere. So we had a crypto, a little dip in the market. I've been hold, Braveheart, hold. Last night I went. So I bought $2 million worth of crypto, $1 million of XRP, 750 of Bitcoin to add to my collection, and 400 of ETH. So I don't know. That's 2 million. Did I just get 2 million entries into this contest? I hope so.
I absolutely loved that, because Dave just nailed the golden rule that every crypto investor should live by. When there's blood in the streets and everyone's panicking, that's your buying opportunity right there. It's really that simple. You buy when everything's painted red, and you sell when you're seeing those massive green candles lighting up your screen. Think about it this way. When those beautiful green days finally show up and your portfolio is looking amazing, that's when you consider taking some profits off the table. Not when everything's crashing and you're feeling emotional about it. It sounds easy, but let's be honest, It takes serious discipline to actually do this when your emotions are running high. Exactly. You never sell on red days, period. Now here's something that caught my attention. There's a new price projection saying XRP could hit anywhere from $7 to $24 within the next 60 days. They're pointing to the ETFs as the main catalyst, and honestly, I'm on board with this prediction. Here's why I think we're about to see some serious value creation from these ETFs. I keep seeing people say, oh, the ETFs didn't do anything for XRP's price. But hold on. Let me explain what's really happening here. First off, the entire market has been down, so that's obviously playing a role. But more importantly, all these over-the-counter ETF purchases are happening behind the scenes right now, and they're not immediately impacting XRP's price in the way people expect. But here's the key point everyone's missing. Even though we're not seeing instant price action, these ETFs are quietly removing XRP from the circulating supply and locking it up. And think about this. Once people buy into these ETFs, do you really think they're going to rush to sell them anytime soon? I don't think so. This is a long-term game, and the supply squeeze is just getting started. This is huge news. The SEC just removed crypto from its 2026 priorities list. What does that mean? They're basically saying crypto is no longer considered a special risk area. Talk about a complete 180. It looks like we're seeing a major power shift here, with most crypto oversight moving over to the CFTC instead of the SEC. And honestly, I couldn't be happier about this change. Let me tell you, having Gary Gensler running the show at the SEC was absolutely brutal for crypto. It felt like we couldn't catch a single break. Every time it looked like crypto was about to take off and gain some serious momentum, boom, another lawsuit announcement. Another crypto company getting dragged through the mud. Those dark days are finally behind us, and as XRP holders, we've got so much to look forward to now. Here's something funny though. Every single time Gary Gensler labeled something as a security, I actually went out and bought that cryptocurrency. Why? Because I knew he was wrong. I knew these weren't actually securities, and that eventually they'd be recognized as legitimate assets. It was just a waiting game. Take LCX, for example. He called it a security, and I couldn't believe it. We're talking about one of the most regulated exchanges out there, with a cryptocurrency that I think is going to be part of the ISO standards. How does that even make sense as a security? But it looks like we're not going to get that market structure bill before Thanksgiving. Take a listen.
Hey everyone, Brian Armstrong, Coinbase CEO here. I'm in the halls of Congress, back again, pushing for market structure legislation. We've seen a lot of progress since I was last here. We've now seen draft text shared by the Senate Ag Committee. Senate Banking is also working nights and weekends to get the next iteration of their text out. So we've got a good chance, I think, of a markup for this bill in December, hopefully get it to the president's desk shortly thereafter. This would be a big milestone to get crypto unlocked with clear rules in the US, which would benefit all companies. But of course, Coinbase wants to be the top crypto company, so we're working hard on product in the meantime as well. And December 17th, we've got our product event, which you can tune in on the live stream to see everything we've been building in the second half of this year. Thanks all of you for continuing to show up and contact your representatives and keep pushing for clear rules for crypto in the United States. We will keep doing our part here as well to try to make it happen. Thanks so much.
So here's the timeline we're looking at. This could actually hit the president's desk before Christmas. I'm really hoping we see this happen before the year wraps up, but if not, I'm expecting it to go through right at the beginning of next year. And honestly, the sooner this happens, the better for all of us. Why? Because this market structure bill is going to be a game changer specifically for utility-driven cryptocurrencies. We're talking about legislation that actually recognizes and supports cryptos that have real-world use cases and practical applications. This isn't just regulatory clarity. This is the kind of framework that separates the projects with genuine utility from the speculative noise in the market. Now, this comes from Time Traveler, and honestly, everyone in the XRP community has their own take on price predictions. But let me break down what they're saying here. According to this perspective, just 100 XRP could make a few people wealthy, while 1,000 XRP could potentially make every holder reach that seven-figure mark. Now, if XRP ever hits those crazy numbers like $1,000 or $2,000 plus, we're talking about anyone who's held XRP from 2012 all the way to 2027 becoming multi-millionaires, without needing the price to go any higher for their lives to completely transform. Here's where it gets interesting. They're saying that if XRP hits anywhere from $100 to $500, which they believe is absolutely guaranteed, that gives us the perfect opportunity to reinvest and restructure our entire financial lives. We could potentially live comfortably even if it eventually reaches those wild numbers like $1,000 to $73,000. I have no idea where some of these astronomical figures come from, but I do believe XRP could hit $10,000 at some point down the road. The key is that XRP needs to move massive amounts of value, and tokenization is going to be the catalyst that really opens up these price possibilities. Now, I know what you're thinking. People always say, based on market cap and historical cycles, XRP will never break above $10. I think they're completely wrong about this. It's not about following traditional market patterns. It's all about utility and real-world use cases. So when could we see $1,000? I've covered this in several videos before, and I'm still sticking with my timeline of 2028. Could it happen sooner? Absolutely. But by then, I think we'll start seeing the early stages of true mass adoption. It all begins with regulatory clarity, then institutional adoption, and those institutions will pave the way for mass adoption. It's just a matter of time now. I'm basing this timeline on what David Schwartz said about 12 to 24 months for institutional adoption, and that was a while back. So realistically, we're probably looking at just over a year away from serious institutional adoption, which means mass adoption is likely about 2 years beyond that. That puts us right in that 2027 to 2028 timeframe. We'll just have to wait and see how this all unfolds. Now, I've mentioned in a few previous videos about XRP potentially becoming a Tier 1 asset, and this next clip from Black Swan Capitalist really drives that point home. Let's take a listen to what they have to say about this.
I think by the time we see the next real crisis, though, the IMF and the central banks of the world and the BIS are already kind of telegraphing that gold is going to be part of a new system. Whatever that system is, however disorderly or orderly it is, it's probably in the form of a central bank digital currency of some form. The IMF literally has a graph of it on their Bretton Woods 2.0 page on their website, and at the base of that graph is physical gold. Because even for something as awful as central bank digital currency to have any validity, they know now in this new crisis to come, which they helped create, and they blamed on COVID, they know now for that central bank digital currency beast to have any credibility as an efficient settlement policy, it has to be backed by a hard asset, and they put gold as the hard asset there. And that's why the BS and everyone else, BIS is making gold a Tier 1 asset. They're programming us serfs for the moment when centralized currencies are coming in, and they're going to back that in some coverage ratio with physical gold. I'm quite convinced of that.
He's talking about currencies being backed by gold and central bank digital currencies, and I'm completely on board with this. I've actually been saying this exact same thing since way back in 2022. But here's the beautiful part about XRP that a lot of people miss. Even if they back currencies with gold, XRP is still perfectly positioned because it's built to move those currencies around the world. That's exactly why I've always said XRP doesn't need to be backed by gold. It's going to be moving the value of gold with every single transaction it processes. We are absolutely heading back to a gold-backed monetary system. Just look at what's been happening. Central banks have been stockpiling gold like crazy for the past couple of years, and they're still doing it right now as we speak. Now here's where it gets really exciting. Imagine for a moment that XRP gets classified as a Tier 1 asset, just like gold. What do you think would happen to the price overnight? If that announcement came out and XRP suddenly became a Tier 1 asset, I honestly think we'd see 4-digit prices almost immediately. And there's a real possibility that the BIS, the Bank for International Settlements, could make exactly that kind of announcement at some point. We could see an announcement along the lines of XRP being utilized by the IMF as a special drawing right. Now, that would be absolutely massive for XRP's status in the global financial system. But like I mentioned at the start of this video, I still think it's too early to call the bottom just yet. I really want to see how things play out over the next 24 to 48 hours. That's going to give us a much clearer picture of where XRP is headed from here. One thing I'm absolutely certain about, though, that breakout is coming. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Until everything falls into place, just remember to stay patient and keep that positive mindset. All right, everyone, that's going to wrap up today's video. I really appreciate each and every one of you for watching and being part of this journey. I'll catch you in the next one. Have an awesome night. Retry.